Hello and welcome. So, I'm supposed to be doing one of my sculpts for a patron tonight. Haven't heard anything from him since Friday, so I'm hoping he's here and paying attention. And yeah, hey 2XR, Tuxer.
This is man. I don't know.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Right. Anyway. Give me just a second, gotta refresh this page.
Oop. I don't see nothing now.
For those who remember the dwarf, not only did... Where did I put it? Where did I put it? There it is! There it is! Yay! Not only did I manage to get the thing actually printed. Yay, looks great. A little blurry. I'll fix that in a second. But I also managed to get it painted. Yes, that's right. I have... Let me zoom in. I said let me zoom in. There we go. I have it painted. Yep. Dwarf Monk is now all in sorts of colors and stuff. I got one copy unpainted, one copy painted. Yay. And hello, Object! It's been a few since I've seen you. Put these back. I also went ahead and got my Thursday sculpt painted, because, you know, it's my character in my Wednesday game. He's technically a silver dragonborn. Oh, come on. Yeah, there we go. He's technically a silver dragonborn, but I painted him mostly white because he also wears scale paint. Because he was originally raised by lizard folk. He's got the various gems painted. He's got his bronze sword. It's a Kopesh. We treat it as a blue. We treat it as a scimitar because, you know, he's druid. Anyway, so I'm right now actually waiting on tonight's guest. As usual, I'm going to give him till quarter after. He had a rather interesting request for what to do, and I'm interested to see what we get. Yeah, the new set of bases came out fine. The grassy base that we used on the Elven Ranger. You know, it's very, very subtle, but it does have a grass feel, like a newly mowed grass when it's actually printed, which is good. We don't want it being too, you know, erratic. So anyway, those who don't remember, this is our new bases. I might make a couple more in upcoming time. For example, if I make a miniature of a demon or something like that, I might make one of these bases here look more like, you know, cracking lava. Might also do a cracked earth one. Well, actually, cracked earth, cracked lava, same difference. Yeah. Now remember, I am now sponsored by Anycubic, and I print the miniatures now on the Photon, which, dude, I'm not saying this because they sponsor me. I'm saying this because using an Anycubic Photon to make these miniatures is like you playing a game in easy mode with cheat codes active. I mean, come on. It's just like, bring it into the slicer, click a button, it's got supports. Put it on this sucker right here. Yes, this is the one that came with it. No. Put it on this thumb drive and come back in here. About 4 or 5 hours later, go back in. Oh, look, I've got a bed full of like 4 or 5 different miniatures. Scrape them off into the alcohol. Clean the bed a little bit with some paper towels. Put it back in, close it. Put the cloth over it that I've been using. And then just like, sploosh the print in IP. Excuse me, hiccups. Sploosh the print in IPA. Gryffindor represent. Anyway. Yeah. Excuse me. All right. I'm going to try one last time. Aha, there you are. Excellent. We can actually do what was planned for today. Alright, so, if I remember correctly, your request was a halfling. A very well-dressed halfling, correct? Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and start off a little bit then. We're going into Dad's studio where I have my files. And now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make him a halfling. Before I do anything else, I'm going to export this. And this is going into... excuse me. The reason for this is because I'm actually not going to be using this just yet. Because what we're going to be going into is 3D Studio Max. Now, I'm going to... well, yeah, there we go. I'm going to import that halfling. Now, let's go ahead and make it, yeah. And let's change the color on this just because. There. We don't want it to be, people to think that we're doing some kind of weird halfling porn. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to be making the top hat first. Because that's, it's a lot easier to do with some base geometry since it is, in fact, such a basic shape. And let's put this kind of near the center. And then we're going to move it up to above the eyes. And this is our basic shape for the hat. Although it's not going to be quite this tall. That was just a bit exaggerated. Or do you want it this tall? You want this top hat to be that tall or a little bit shorter? A little bit taller so it's almost a caricature, You make that stovepipe. Or do you want it more of just of a classical size? A little shorter, okay. Alright. first things first, I need to... Yeah, okay, so let's... One thing to remember is it will be a bit narrower. Like, to there. Yeah. Okay, that's about a more traditional top hat. Now, we're going to take all of this. We're going to move it down just a little. And expand it up just a bit. Stretch it just a bit. So that we have... This area is going to be the brim. Then, we're going to select these. And we're going to bring it in just a little for the shape. Alright, we also need to reset transform because I used a scale on it. Now, we're going to select here. We're going to extrude by local normal. That's a bit too big, so let's bring it in to about there. Okay. Now, let me double check one last thing. I'm going to pull up some images of a top hat on Google image search real quick. What? Which cat is where? I'm hearing a cat meowing at me. Anyway. Top hat. Yeah, there's a faint curve, but we'll deal with that after we get a bit more vertexes to deal with. So the first thing we're going to do is select those and that and loop. It's Shinju. Come on, Fuzzbutt. Over. What is the matter with you today, Furball? Shinju? I know you love me, but I'm trying to get some work done for somebody. Okay? No. No. Get up on your bed. Good girl. Okay. Now we have those edges selected. We're going to chamfer them a 0.01. And yeah, and this one as well. No, I don't. Oh, that's right, I gotta. No, baby girl. You can't play with the miniatures. You know I don't let you do that. Okay. Sorry about the investigation. Loop. Chamfer. Okay. Now I'm going to mesh smooth it. Once. And then I'm going to select these. Because there's one thing a top hat has. It's got that brim. And this is going to be that brim. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to inset 0.01. Accept. Then we're going to extrude by local normal 0.01. What that does is that gives us a little bit of a tight corner. I'm going to extrude it out just a bit more. Be an edge that will be recognizable when it comes time. Then we're going to extrude it out at 0.01. And then one last inset of 0.01. Then we're going to get a mesh smooth. One last mesh smooth. We're going to collapse all. Then we're going to take it here. And we're going to use a soft selection. What this means is it doesn't select all of the vertexes evenly, but rather whatever our selection is, it's going to kind of smoothly transition from selected to not selected. It's not as awesome as using a soft brush and ZBrush, but it's pretty awesome. Now we're going to bend. Now let's see. That's not working. We changed 90. Okay, that's not working. Okay. Nope. Okay, here we go. Collapse all. And then again, we need to make the top a bit more. Yeah, and so we're going to go ahead and once again use soft selection. 1.8. And this time we're going to pinch it pretty much. Because what we're going to do here is we're going to make it a little bit. Yeah. Oh, that's a bit too much. Let's see. Just enough to get the feel across without being ridiculous. And yeah, the rest we can pretty much do in ZBrush. And that's going to be our top hat. So now, file, export selected, and make sure it's exporting as that. And let's put this in the top hat. Okay. Now we pop back here. And what we're going to do is, while we're in here, file, import, and we're going to import that top hat. Now the top hat, we have to make it visible. Make the diffuse color white, ambient color black, and the opacity strength 100%. Bing! Now we're going to parent this to his head. Is we got to select the head and make it open up in here. There. Now every time he, like, say, looks up or down, the hat moves with the head. Okay. Let's undo. Now the next question is, you had mentioned a diamond. Diamond. Which hand do you want it in, left or right? The diamond in the left, okay. Well, earlier I went ahead and I made a diamond. File, import, and that'll be under there. Diamond left hand. We're going to have the same problem here. Opacity strength of 100. Bing! That might be a bit large. Especially after we shrink him down to a halfling sized. Is that a large enough diamond, or... Yeah. Do you think we should make that just a wee bit smaller? Are we talking fingertip, or are we talking like, oh my god, this would found an empire? Just a bit, yeah. Just a little bit. Let's say, yeah, that should be probably pretty good. File back view and zoom in. And we're going to move it into position in the palm. Let's move it back just a little bit. Yeah, that's a bit. Is that small enough, or does it need to go smaller? Do we need to go smaller here? Because yeah, it's still kind of big. Okay, it's a little bit smaller. Is that good? Because really and truly, any much smaller, and it's going to start losing its definition as a diamond. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and go back to the back view. And once again, move this into position. And back to the left view and make sure it's... Okay, it's still good there. Alright, so... I'm not going to worry about posing that hand until we're nearly done. But anyway, the next thing is, you wanted him to have a rapier? Or do you want to forego the rapier for this, since it's going to be tucks and tails? Because I can always take that rapier into 3D Studio Max and make the blade shorter. By that point it would almost resemble a mangoche, but still. Forgo a weapon. Okay. So, he's obviously going to have that held up. So, what do you want to do with his right arm then? I mean, if he had a weapon or a staff, he could have it out behind him while he's looking at the diamond. But with nothing in this arm, it's... What's he going to do with it? While you're getting a response, I can go ahead and start working on making his... Okay, so... What? Ugh. What are you doing, Furball? Anyway, like I was trying to say, I can start getting his hips off center. Oh. Do you mind? I'm sorry about the interruptions tonight. But anyway, let's see. If it was more human-sized, I'd have him have his hand on his hip, but because of the way the arms foreshorten, it would be kind of oddly posed. But let's go ahead and both of his thighs are going to bend forward a little. Excuse me. This one is going to go to the side a little. This one is going to go in a little. And what we're going to do is, first let's get, this foot is going to stay still. So we're going to bend it up slightly. Bend the toe up slightly. Yeah, and then we're going to side to side slightly. Okay, that's good. Now hit Control D and it goes to the floor. Alright, now we go the other leg. Obviously I pushed it out way too far to the side. We're going to go ahead and bring it back down a bit. And bend out. And side to side. No, wrong way. This way. Too far. And we go to perspective, zoom out. Now, this is going to go kind of side to side that way a little. Twist just a hair. And this is going to bend backwards and go side to side the other way. Twist just a hair. And he's going to have that arm, this way he's kind of got his chest out a bit. We can bend that chest back a bit more because he is kind of standing. Yeah. We got the attitude and the torso. Then we just got to decide what that other arm's going to be doing. Well, meanwhile, let's go ahead and bring this arm up a bit. And then I'm going to wrap his fingers around the diamond. Let's bring it forward because we don't want the shoulders to be so stiff. Okay, now zoom in a little bit. Bend it slightly here. Twist it a bit. And now from here, and then bend in the thumb. Let's turn his head slightly. And we've got the basic pose for him, except for this arm here. Let's twist it back the other way. There's still what to do with this arm while he's showing off this diamond. Still a bit of a conundrum. Okay, a fist in the side hand, a fist on the hip. The problem with that is that he is such a deformed body shape. It doesn't really do well. See, it doesn't work well with a halfling. Trying to do a halfling with a hip on with a hand on his hip doesn't really work. So content library, props. And dagger, right hand. Also, there's a problem with the dagger. It was having problems printing the way it was. So here we have, alright, here we have the basic pose of our halfling gem collector, I guess. I guess that would probably be the best way to phrase him. Ah, that's a good one. Tipping the hat. Because the dagger looks out of place for a guy in a tux. So, let's go ahead. Select all of these. Let's twist it up a bit more. Too much. There we go. It's looking a lot more characterful. There we go. Like he's right just about to take off. Yeah. Do you have a name for this character, by the way? It helps when I export it all to have a name with it. Liam Filcher. Let's just call him Liam for the files. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to hide the hat and the diamond. File, export. Liam body. Accept. Then we're going to hide the body and make the hat and the diamond visible. And we're going to export these as Liam props. Okay. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're leaving here ZBrush. But before I can work in ZBrush, alright, little baby girl. What's the matter, baby? Come on, little baby girl. Gotta be up here. Come on. What's the matter? No, you can't get back in my lap. What is the matter? Okay, I hate to do this. Give me just a second. I'm gonna have to put her into the... take her out of the room and close the door, because I'm not gonna be able to have my sketching tablet in my lap with she's being this needy. I'll be right back. By the way, is he Liam Arnold Filcher? L. I am a Filcher. Anyway, so go here to import and broadcast. Make sure it's new Liam body. And as you can see, he's already mostly in position. And then we're going to use the subtool append, and we're going to import the props. Now I'm going to do one thing out of order here. The props really don't need to be detailed as right now because they already are. I mean, you can see the diamond is already given at least a little bit of subdivision, and the hat has it. Well, the hat's the hat. A hat is a hat, of course. So we're just going to subdivide it a little bit until it's a reasonable amount of smoothiness. Now we're going to hide them, and we're going to work on Liam entire. One of the first things is we're going to give him a bit of a grin. Does that sound about right? Does it sound like he should be grinning? And here we go. The big question is, did I forget to unmute? No, I didn't unmute. Okay, good. I did unmute, rather. Okay. So a bit of a grin. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to move. And shrink this down just a bit, because we need to play with the expression. And we don't want to move the entirety of the thing. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to bring it up. Now we have to exaggerate the grin, because otherwise it may not show when it comes time for the fullness. All right, we're gonna then. Well, we're gonna start enlarging the cheekbone here, because when you grin, it kind of makes these things kind of pop out. Then we're going to raise the opposite eyebrow from where we have the grin. We're going to pull it out just a little bit. Make it clear that it's happening. So he's looking to look at now. Let's just check to see how it looks really small, because that's yep. Okay, now we have some geometry to worry about, namely right here. So we're going to just very carefully, very lightly, just kind of smooth this over just a little bit. We're going to flatten out the shoulder a bit, because unlike your typical adventurous hero, this character does not need his deltoids flaring. But by the same token, we're going to grab down here and kind of move it elbow out a bit. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and Dynamesh. We're going to subdivide and then Dynamesh. And Dynamesh is going to be at 768 with a blur of 0. And for the most part, most people now can't tell anything happened until you zoom in. Now, when I hit smooth on these areas, it works a lot better. It doesn't flatten as much, but it definitely smooths much more. So now we smooth it out quite a bit more, because this is going to be covered by a jacket. We don't need the fullness of his physicality demonstrated. Same thing goes here. And over here. There will be some wrinkles on this. In fact, that's got where 90% of the detail is going to be, is wrinkles. But we don't need a massively muscled halfling. Now I'm going to use standard brush. I'm going to go ahead and bring the stroke menu over so I can turn off the lazy mouse. And we're going to very gently kind of pull up some of the geometry underneath his shoulder blades and down here. So that we can smooth it all into place. And now we blend it all. Yes, there will be some showing through, but especially after we get the geometry of the jacket in place and smooth that out a bit, this won't be really much at all. Alright, so the very first thing I need to ask is vest or cummerbund? Cummerbund is a bit more classical, you know, whereas, you know, a vest is more of the more modern take. Cummerbund. Okay. So what we're going to do is go ahead and make sure we're on subtool and prepare the extract. And I now go to select, and I'm going to select out pretty much almost the entire middle of his belly to become this cummerbund. Lord knows he's got enough belly. Now, much of this technically will end up being underneath the jacket, but this is just to make sure we get it right. And if I extract it at 0.2, accept. I draw to unselect it, and down here, because it's still masked, I draw. Now, let's dynamesh it at 128, and then subdivide it once. No, there we go. We're going to deal with adding in wrinkles and that after it's done. We go back up to him. We're going to hide the cummerbund. We're then going to draw on the jacket. Now, I'm going to assume that it's going to be open and not buttoned. Am I correct? Okay. Now, the lines on a tuxedo are slightly different from what you'd see on your typical suit. So, what happens is, it kind of comes down like that. Even when it's not buttoned. And we're going to go ahead and use the deselect to add the edges to this. Modern suit coats tend to be almost straight line from where they meet, instead of being diagonal. Also, it's going to look like I'm not doing the full tails. That's because I'm going to have to, after we've done making this part, I'm going to have to drag part of it down into the tail shape. This part here will actually hang down a lot lower. Cut off to make it a point. I've got to get a point across somehow. Now, a lot of this will end up basically being smooshed in and fused with the torso. But we got to have enough that, you know, we can bring that message across. Now let's zoom in. There. Zoom out. And we're going to... actually, let's go ahead and do this so that we can smooth out that back a bit more. Alright. And just to show... Alright, now we're going to extract it out at 0.03. Extract. Accept. Draw. Draw. And just in case. Yeah, it's going over the cummerbund. Excellent. Now, before we do anything else, let's hide the cummerbund. And we need to dynamesh this. and we need to shrink in the areas that are going in. So that'll be around here. And once we've gotten this in place, we can go in and tweak the cummerbund. See, doing this, we're smoothing out the back too. Okay. Now, before we do anything else, comes time to move them. We're going to make this much bigger. Okay, we're going to bring it down here. We're going to grab, we're going to drag down. Oh, wrong way. And we are going to have to dynamesh it again after we do this. Make sure that they're balanced and even. And then we're going to do something unusual in that we're going to hide him. Yeah, we need to pull this down a bit more. Now we're going to go to inflate, but we're going to also mask off back faces. So what I can do, I can inflate this so that when it comes time for printing, it's actually fused in, and we don't have a really skinny piece that's hanging off that could easily break or not be well supported or something like that. Now when we make him visible, yeah. Now we're just going to go back to move. We're going to kind of drag this forward. This is compensating for the problem of, you know, printing. You'd see something similar in most pewter miniatures, simply because in that case it'd be compensation for the mold making process. Okay. Okay. And there's our tails. Now, before we do anything else, I'm going to grab these areas of the cummerbund that are not quite proper, and I'm going to hide them by doing this. I'm also going to go ahead, grab this, and pull it out a bit more on the bottom so that it's more obvious to be a jacket. The seam is easier to see. Again, best for when printing and for when painting in this case. Okay. Now, geometry, divide a couple times. delete lower, Dynamesh. That Dynamesh did was, that one was to even out the polygon flow along here, so that when it comes time I can, now we're going to subdivide it until it's about there, and we're going to merge down. Just going to fuse it as one thing with the body, and I'm going to Dynamesh it again, yet again. Yes, the reason for this is so that I can actually, whoop, no, I don't want that on. I can actually sit here and with the smoothing active, blend it all in so that it's part of one cohesive piece in these areas that once were seams. You can see it happening as I'm doing this. Move. And then I just kind of make sure to blend this as much as possible. So this side is done. Now to do this side, then I'll be doing the collar. And as for the inner shirt we can handle just by adding some details to the chest. With clothing, you don't want to get too many layers away from the skin, where it stops looking like clothing and starts looking like he's wearing, you know, a door gunner's vest from Vietnam, or a bomb explosion technician's explosion-proof cape. Okay. It's already starting to look right when you look at it doing kind of looping around like this. We are also going to have to make cuffs, but I think we're going to do the collar first. Fortunately, I do have some reference images on on a tuxedo, specifically the version that uses a cummerbund, and it's going to be relatively simple. So let's go ahead. Where did I put my stylus? Oh, bing! Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to first draw on the area it's going to be on. We'll deal with cleanup in a minute. And all right. And come around this way. Now There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to trim. Make it up like. No. There we go. Now we're going to shrink the mouse and we're going to try and clean up this area that kind of slopped around right in here. Well, that means I need to kind of hit here too. Now I hit here. And now here. As I suddenly get real quiet, well, I'm trying to make sure I get that corner right, and I'm right in here. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make that a little bit looser and then come in here and very carefully, and also I need to kind of trim off here, round that off. Okay, now this is going to extract at 0.02 because we need it enough to be seen, but not so much that it looks like it's, you know, a completely massive thing. Alright, now we're going to dynamesh it at 256. And we're going to subdivide it a couple times. And now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in the actual collar details, which actually is, in this case, going to be done with the slash tool. We're going to turn off lazy mouse and shrink it down to about 18. We're going to come in. We're going to start here and just kind of come out and then hit it 2. Start here and come out. 1, 2. Then we're going to take the move tool and bring out the bottom, move the bottoms in just a bit. Hold on a second. Yeah, let's. kind of make it and then shrink it. Oh, shrink it, not grow it. And grab this and bring it up. Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to add in using layer, really small version. First of all, that's not small enough and not deep enough. Oh, sub, yeah. Okay. And that is the collar for the coat. Now, next thing is, let's go ahead and give him a bow tie. Which really and truly means that we're going back. Well, let's go ahead and dynamesh it. Oh, nope. Nope, 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 nope. 512. And subdivide it. No, I don't need 500,000 for the collar. Go back to him. Let's merge down because we do. No, it's not merge down. We want it to have. Okay, on him, we're going to go ahead. We're going to make this a big layer. Whoops. Add. No. We're going to mask the neck. Then we're going to unmask down here. Because we don't need the whole thing. And we're going to extract that at 0.02. And then we're going to dynamesh it at 128. Because this is where our my brain just went. This is where our bow tie is going to be. And we're going to do this so that we have a nice sharp seam area for. No, because that's too far over. We actually need it over here. And a very faint one over here. because this is just, you know, a seam, whereas this needs to go deeper than that because it represents where it goes overlap. Too strong, so bring it to 11. Okay. He still needs his bow tie. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and make everything visible again. Select the cummerbund just so that it has a fancier look. We still need to give him cuffs and pant cuffs. And probably, yeah, that's, yeah, cuffs and pant cuffs, then it'll be wrinkle time. I'm going to append a box. And I'm going to shrink it a lot. Then I'm going to offset it a bit. And I'm going to move it up to the neck area. And there. And I'm going to rotate it on the Y. Okay. Now, that's going to be the basis that I'm going to be building our bow tie out of. And the way I need to do one other thing. I need to scale it, but only on the X. Then I let the bring it back over. And there, that should do it. Now I'm going to scale it only on the Z. Okay, and now almost all of this is going to start off by using the move and inflate tools. Now, this is just shaping it here. So, let's go to inflate. And let's see what happens when we start inflating this part. And let's inflate some back here, because we have it, still have it set to not affect back faces. In fact, let's go ahead and hide him and his collar. We want this to actually penetrate into the skin for the same reason that we had the tails do it. Now, zoom in, and we're going back to move. Make it bigger. Not quite so big. Rotate down a bit so we can pull it out bigger like this. Then, we're going to Dynamesh this. Too small. 256. Okay, then we're going to subdivide it. Delete lower. And we're going to layer to add a very simple No, that doesn't work. Oh well. Too big. Brr. Okay. And that's a bow tie. That came out pretty nicely. So what are you thinking so far, Bachelor? Alright, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fuse the bow tie by merging down. Let's go ahead and add it to the props. Now we need to come up here. We need to make cuffs and shoe cuffs. We also need to add in the buttons and the buttonhole on the jacket. Also the buttons on the... So for the buttons, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little trick. It's going to inflate one... Wait, way too big. 1, 2. We're going to set this to 11. We're going to go 1, 2. There. Gives us a nice little bump. 1. Wait. Alright, so 1, 2, 3. 2, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3. 4, 2, 3. Then we're going back to layer, Z sub, and over here we're going to, oh, not small enough. There. Now, let's go back to let's say standard. And what we're going to do now is we're going to draw on the areas that are going to be the cuffs. And since we may as well go ahead and get them done now, we're also going to draw on where the pants go. Now you'll notice the pants go down a lot lower than most breeches do. The pants cover most of the shoe, don't forget that. Because a lot of people do, and they look like a mess when they try and get dressed up because their pants are too short. Now, I'm a little bit early in terms of just the actual getting all the geometry done. But when you factor in as much wrinkles as I'm going to have to sculpt on all of these parts, have them be both subtle and yet visible on the miniature when printed, yeah, that's going to be a bit more shaping rather than adding. Okay, now I frame out. And now I extract at a 0.03. Accept. And geometry at... Whoa, wrong one. I need this. Yeah. Okay, now let's zoom in on the boot parts. Well, not the boot parts, but the footsies. Smooth out just a bit. And here. And then we're going to do the same thing up at the wrists. We're not going to give them spats. We're going to do more of a more modern cut simply because spats would not be seen on something this small. It's like, wait a minute, why is there weird markings on his feet? I can barely see them. And Lord help you trying to paint them. Okay. And now the same thing over here. It's probably under my head right now. And there we go. I just realized that one of the things I'm going to have to do after the show is up is upload 3 full episodes of my show to YouTube. Okay, it's looking excellent so far. Now, subtool. We're going to go ahead and subdivide it a little bit. And then we're going to merge down. And we're going to do one next Dynamesh. And now we smooth the areas it connects. And then it's about to be wrinkle time. Yes, we smooth it before adding wrinkles. That doesn't... Yeah, it sounds kind of odd, I know, but... Uh-huh. I think this is more of a fusion smoothing. And while I'm thinking about it, one thing we want to do is let's go ahead and take the inflate. Make it much bigger and much weaker. We kind of need to minimize the back of the knee. Because pants legs tend to be straight more than they are. Yeah, there we go. Now we come back in here and we fuse the sleeve cuffs. One other thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make the cufflinks, make it very clear. Okay. As you go on, it starts off looking kind of rough, but as you go, and as you add in more details and more specific things needed, it starts looking more and more like what you have in mind. And that's what's happening here. As it's looking more and more like a tuxedo. So theoretically, I could end it here. I won't. So, the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to go and hide our whole mister. And we are going to the cummerbund. Actually, let's unhide the mister just so we can see. Okay. The cummerbund is now going to be made into our wrinklies. We're going to add the wrinkles. So, first things first. I'm going to come in from here and just kind of down. No. I keep forgetting. See, wrinkles come in as zigzags. Now, the next thing is we need our slash add. And we need to drop that down to about, yeah. And we're going to draw underneath. No, underneath. Yeah, there we go. And here. No. Here. And come in. Oh, no. There. And then come in from here. And smooth it out a little. Also, come in there. Now we go to the sub, and what we're doing here is we're making areas where the paint will catch. And this is whether it's a depression for the washes or a ridge for a dry brush. It's something to make it easier to paint. I have had to hand paint on wrinkles in the past. It looked like it looked horrible. I'm not a master painter by any means, but anything that makes it easier to paint is appreciated, even by master painters. Okay, the cummerbund's a little bit wrinkly now. Let's smooth off the side that's going underneath the jacket here. And let's do the same over here. Okay. Oh, before we do wrinkles, I almost forgot the cufflinks. Actually, no, the cufflinks are on the shirt underneath, and the shirt underneath is not visible in this particular cut. So, I don't need them. So the next thing is wrinkles. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're only going to do a few wrinkles because these are ones that would actually occur from motion. And from, because most tuxedos are cut so that they don't hang with wrinkles. And we're going to smooth out the ends of these because they'll only appear in the earliest stages. Okay, and then we're going to take our slash. We're gonna add in just a little bit of sharpness to these because that's how it happens. We're gonna smooth out the edges of them. Add in a little bit more subtle ones too. And we're going to go over here with standard, and once again we're going to come up, out, 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 and down. That last one didn't do well. This one's going down. And we're going to blend out the ends. And back to slash. We are not going to do sub wrinkles here. We want to carry out the effect of the wrinkle, but we also don't want it to look like a total mess. So we're just going to add in some upper wrinkles. We're also going to go ahead, we're going to do some sub wrinkles on the bent arms, but it's going to be mostly a cut. Just a couple there. Now just to show the difference between the right side and the left. The left-hand side looks like it's actually being worn. Fortunately, the pants came out looking pretty worn as it is, so I'm not going to have to do much there. Mostly just draw a fly perhaps, and actually that might be too much. But we're going to draw a couple wrinkles here, because that's what happens. Blend these in. I'm actually going to have the sharp parts extend beyond where they are. Oh, no, I need add. Yeah, there we go. Smooth out there. And come out and smooth out there. Come out, wherever you are. Okay. Excellent so far. Got a little bit more soda. And now we just got to add a couple wrinkles around the crotch. Yeah, I know. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use the add to draw on the front side. Oh, need a little bit higher. Just here. And then the sub coming in from the side. Right there. And then we're just going to smooth it a little bit to make it more understated and kind of like there we go. Just to show that it kind of has a fly. Now we're going to go and we're just going to use a couple additive. Actually, let's make it a little bit bigger mouse. A couple additive bits. With a couple wrinkles, inner wrinkles coming in there. And then we're going to kind of blend out the ends. So it'll help make it a little bit more like a wrinkle fading away. Frame. And one more frame. Okay. I'm thinking we can go ahead and merge everything into one piece. And here is our little halfling. Our new banker halfling. Making bank. Now the next question is, And it's a pretty simple one. What kind of base? My first thought would be the fancy tiles, the one next to the plain flat one here. It's all got kind of fancy engravings, and it may not turn out well on an FDM printer, but on a photon it'll look smashing. So the fancy tiles. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead, append Polymesh 3D. We're going to make sure we have it selected. And import those fancy tiles. Now, as you'll notice, it comes in loaded in at his feet. We're gonna go ahead and move it just a little bit forward, and now we're gonna drop it down. Zoom in, get a better look on these feet, and drag it up, down. Oh, that looks like it's about perfect. Yep, that's about perfect. Frame. And here we have our Halfling banker. That's what I'm going to call him. I'm going to call him the banker. Okay, and now we merge down. Actually, before we merge down, let's do one last thing. Let's go ahead and subdivide this a little bit. Then we're going to merge down. Now, we have ourselves a fancy banker halfling on a fancy tile floor in his fancy hat and clothes, holding a fancy diamond. The problem is here that we have 1.7 million polygons and several different objects, that are intersecting geometry. We don't want that. So we go back to our old buddy Dynamesh. Let's make it resolution 1024 because that's got a fancy little tile thing. And it's now somehow 4.3 million polygons. But it's still... Yeah. Oh, I should note, I did not really have to do anything to the fingers. Number one, halfling fingers are a little chubby anyway, so they don't really have knuckles. And number two, he is not bending his hands really at the knuckles too much, enough for it to really make a difference in the shape of the fingers. Okay, so now let's turn this off. We have a single solid surface, but now we need to change it from a single solid surface to a much smaller polygon count. We don't need 4.386 million polygons going to anybody's frickin' slicer. Let's make it 50K. I click this button. I'm probably going to pause and hiccup and slow down because it's going to be chewing through my processor. Click. Slowly it turns. Percentage by percentage. Excuse me. You know, I just realized what's really funny is that in alt theory, you could probably take this and use it as a Monopoly figure, make it represent rich Uncle Moneybags. Oh, he doesn't have a mustache, but hey, Uncle Moneybags shaved. Yeah, that's it. He shaved. Yeah. Oh, computing, please wait. Nope. Because what happened was, it went to computing, please wait, too early. What that means is, it didn't like what just happened. I'm going to go ahead and just for the heck of it, I'm going to inflate his knuckles just a wee bit. Only on the back of this hand. Because see what it is I got to make some kind of change to the geometry for Dynamesh to make a change. And I'm thinking I had Dynameshed it too high. So let's take this Dynamesh to 760. Dynamesh. Processing mesh faces. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, I can put this back behind the... Now let's try decimating to 50k. Oh, let's make it 35k polys. Process and decimate. Mm-hmm. And wow, it's now at 127,000 triangles. So it did it. Yep, there we go. That's our halfling. Now, if you can send me your email address and a DM over in Discord, my brain went. I'm going to go ahead and export this. And that will be Liam Banker figure. And I come back up here and I go back to full screen. And well, I'm still live, aren't I? Yeah, it doesn't say it says I got no drop frames. I froze on my screen is what happened. But yeah. So, what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and say, that's it. It is 7:48. I made our little tuxedoed halfling in just over an hour and 45 minutes. Kaboom. Yay. So now, like I said, next step for me is to go ahead and make an STL version, because ZBrush, when it saves STLs, it kind of hiccups sometimes. So I need to make an STL version, and then I need to send them to you by email. Okay. Hello? All right. Well, yeah, once you DM me your email address, I'll be zipping up the files and yeet. So I guess right now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at the screen. I'm going to have my hand up like this. And I'm going to count down from 5 to 1. When I see 1, that means I've caught up with the lag, and I'll be logging out. So, that's going to be a 5, a 4, a 3, 2,
And a 1.
Bye-bye.